Hunter Biden finally reached a plea deal with the Justice Department, and this is exactly the kind of divisive political story you'd expect to get here. After a years-long investigation into crimes, he was charged with 2 counts of willfully failing to pay federal income taxes on time, and unlawful possession of a gun. Unlawful because when you are an addict or in trouble with drugs, you are not allowed to have a firearm. In this agreement, which some are decrying and others are saying nothing about, we can learn here, under a deal hashed out over several months by Hunter Biden's legal team and federal prosecutors, he will plead guilty to misdemeanor counts of failing to pay his 2017 and 2018 taxes on time and agree to probation, the court filing said. According to the indictment, in both 2017 and 2018, he had taxable income in excess of $1.5 million, but failed to pay income tax for each of those years. Hunter owed the IRS more than $100,000 in taxes for each of those years, according to the filing. And so in 2022, Hunter Biden paid those taxes back. He, as tax cheats or tax laggards do, will have to pay penalties for that. And when it comes to the gun charge, a little differently, the information on the gun charge says that during an 11-day period in October of 2018, Hunter possessed a Colt Cobra .38 caliber revolver despite knowing he was an unlawful user and addicted to a controlled substance. As we mentioned before, Hunter Biden has agreed to enter into a so-called pretrial diversion agreement in connection with the federal felony charge of possession of a gun by a person who is a user or addict of illegal drugs. Typically, such agreements call for the related criminal charge to be dismissed if a defendant complies with the conditions of the deal for a set period of time. So another way of putting this, Cenk, is that the Justice Department is charging Hunter Biden here, but they're not prosecuting him in connection with his purchase of the handgun.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on how you define it. They're prosecuting he's just not going to go to jail. He's going to get probation and other sentences, right? So look, there's a lot of takeaways here. Number one, I guess this ends the Hunter for Red October. This was all political in the first place. But it had a potential of being a real crime because, and we've said this all along, so Hunter Biden using his name to get these contracts with foreign companies and being on their boards is cheesy to no end and potentially corrupt. And so we went over the laptop material earlier in the program, when that first came out, and we showed you there's a lot of damaging things about Hunter Biden on those laptops. But it's actually exculpatory of Joe Biden because on the laptops they talk about how they can't promise that the big guy will do anything because he won't. So it actually showed that Joe Biden is innocent. So now they do this long investigation of Hunter Biden, and I got a totally open mind. Maybe there was something crooked, etc. Now the good news here for everybody who cares about the truth is, and this is a funny thing for me to say, but the prosecutor in this case was Trump appointed.
That's right.
And Merrick Garland, when he came in, replaced all the attorneys general or US attorneys, I should say, as he's supposed to do. You replace the Republicans with Democrats, except this one. He left this one alone, saying you continue your investigation unabated, okay? And he did. So,
and Garland said that David Weiss, this prosecutor, had total and complete authority to run this case as the Trump-appointed prosecutor.
And so look, for MAGA, nothing matters, facts don't matter. We'll come back to them in a second. But for, by the way, establishment Democrats, a lot of them, the facts don't matter. They were going to defend the Biden family no matter what, okay? That's, I think, a much smaller sliver, but that exists, right? But for the rest of us, including me, I actually wanted to know. So if you'd given me a Biden-appointed prosecutor, I would have trusted that less. Why? Because of politics? No, not really. It's just because Democratic appointed prosecutors generally are much weaker and softer, and especially among people in the elites. That's my opinion. You could agree or disagree, okay? But here's a Trump appointed prosecutor, looks after it for years and years, tries to get the guy. And these charges are the weakest I have ever seen related to anyone related to politics, ever. I mean, I don't think these should be tried or charged if you're a regular person.
Well, we'll get to that because that's exactly right. I mean, it's common that people are charged for these things. It is not an uncommon charge to have tax evasion or failure to pay or to delay charged, but not prosecuted. You have to pay your taxes in America. So that's why. But he's also not, he's related to the president, but he's not a politician either.
No, I agree.
Biden. So we got to be careful. Let me just go to the gun thing quickly. One thing, the gun part of this in the deal would be contingent on Mr. Biden, Hunter Biden, remaining drug-free for 24 months and agreeing never to own a firearm again. So these are things that will be monitored in whatever way they're monitored. They're often very difficult to monitor, though. That's a typical sentence or a typical deal in a gun charge such as this. But as Cenk alluded to, there is the partisanship here. It does. I mean, in truth, it is the son of the president, so it brings a lot of questions to the White House. Ian Sams, the White House spokesman, said the president and first lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. We will have no further comment, but of course, the president peppered with questions about this, as will people in the administration until the story dies, which will be about 24 hours, I would guess. Joe Biden has said very little, but he was asked questions and he had this simple response.
I'm very proud of my son.
And I mean, Cenk, that's the answer you'd expect, and that's probably the best one for him to give.
Yeah, I don't know. Proud is the right word on today, but it's his son.
Right.
Whenever it's your son, it is what it is, and you're going to defend him, and I expect that. And so I'm not bothered by that. I expect Donald Trump to defend Don Jr., although that's probably less likely. Okay, if we're being honest, and you know it too.
Right.
Okay, so now look, guys, on the charges. Look, when Trump is charged, MAGA says it should be a bar so much higher than if it applied to a middle class person. So for example, if you take the kind of top secret documents that Trump had, and you're a middle class guy who, by the way, was in the military and got the documents because you were part of a classified mission, etc., and you took them home, and then they found out that you had them and you wouldn't give them back, you might be facing 10 to 20 years real prison time, like decades, right? And the Republicans say, yeah, I know, but Trump's one of the elites, and the elites need to be protected, and it's political if you go after him. So make sure the middle class Marine guy goes to prison for as long as possible, but Trump never faces justice. In this case with Hunter Biden, again, I was super open to actual corruption charges, but it turns out he looked and looked and looked, and there weren't any. So he charges this crap? Like, okay, now this is the exact opposite standard. If you're middle class and you didn't pay your taxes for a while, and then you did, they're not going to charge you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and on the gun charge, you're middle class, you own a gun, but you didn't report that you were on X, Y, or Z when you filled out the forms. They're not going to charge you. No prosecutor is going to waste his time charging that stuff.
In fact, that law exists, and that codicil to the law exists so that they can get people who are, for the example, white supremacists, organized white supremacists. They can get them on that gun charge because they know that they've been using drugs. If they can't get them on some other charge with their racism and bigotry and all of that, so they hold them on those charges originally. So this is very far-fetched. As a matter of fact, Andrew Weissman, former U.S. attorney, today saying about Hunter Biden, he said, putting it in context, first-time tax offenders like this rarely get prosecuted, and even rarer to get jail time. And false gun applications, sadly, almost never get prosecuted or jail time. So this is, if anything, harsh, but not lenient.
Yeah, look, it depends. Here's what it mainly depends on. If he had no evidence of corruption and he went with these weak ass charges, then this is way overcharging. It's crazy. It's saying, okay, we're gonna get a Democrat's son just to call things even. On the other hand, if he had decent evidence on corruption, but not good enough to prosecute, and Hunter didn't want to take a chance, the prosecutor didn't want to take a chance, and they settled to lesser charges, okay, that's a more normal plea deal. And what this means is I couldn't really prove the corruption, so I went with this instead.
Well, the corruption is the next chapter, right? I mean, that's what House Republicans are all over. So this is just, basically, this is a tax charge. This could happen to anyone. You said just Joe middle class, doesn't pay his taxes, doesn't have the money for it 1 year, takes the penalty, pays it a few years later. that happens. It's still,
but it never gets charged. That's
it never gets
crazy to
charged.
charge
That's
that.
the thing. It never. The IRS wants their money. They don't want to see you in jail, and no courtroom in America wants to have to deal with that case. So that's part of it. But when you talk about the idea that it's the corruption, that's what people in the House are so consumed with, and Republicans are still furious about this. Right? They think that this is an uneven justice. That Hunter Biden got away with something. Here's James Comer of Kentucky, the Republican leading the House Oversight Committee. We've seen a lot from him, and this is a statement put out by his office today. Let's be clear. The Department of Justice's charges against President Biden's son, Hunter, reveal a two-tiered system of justice. Hunter Biden is getting away with a slap on the wrist when growing evidence uncovered by the House Oversight Committee reveals the Bidens engaged in a pattern of corruption, influence peddling, and possibly bribery, right? So this is the politicization of this, right? You have one idea here that he's being charged with something that nobody ever gets, or he got a deal instead of being charged for something that nobody ever gets charged for, and Republicans are fuming about it. Comer goes on, these charges against Hunter Biden and sweetheart plea deal have no impact on the Oversight Committee's investigation. We will not rest until the full extent of President Biden's involvement in the family schemes are revealed. And that's the stuff about which the Republicans are so hung up. Kevin McCarthy standing by his deputy today, speaking with reporters at the Capitol.
My first reaction is it continues to show the two-tier system in America. If you are the president's leading political opponent, DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal. Now, this does nothing to our investigation. It actually should enhance our investigations because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information now, saying that because of pending investigation, they should be able to provide Chairman Comer with any information that he requires.
Is a Trump-appointed prosecutor given total authority to go and do his own thing, total autonomy on this case by the Attorney General Merrick Garland, and that's what they came up with. And you have people saying this was very harsh, maybe because of that, but Republicans don't think it was harsh enough, Jay.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to defend their politics, but rip their head off on policy, rhetorically, of course. So first on the hypocrisy issue, look, if this happened, for example, to Don Jr., what do you think Kevin McCarthy and the Republican reaction would be? But they're going after him for paying his taxes. He already paid it, and they're still going to try to prosecute him. Oh, for your guns, they're trying to take his guns away. Now they say he can't have guns for the rest of his life. This is not going to be an issue. And guys, even if you're the most hardcore MAGA, you know that I'm right. You know that would be the reaction you would have if it was Don Jr., right? And if we talked about corruption, but they couldn't prove it, but we're still talking about corruption, you'd be like, they couldn't prove it. We told you it was a witch hunt. We told you, right? All right, so I get it. You guys don't care about facts, right? So I'm not going to debate people who are serial liars and lie on purpose. So Kevin McCarthy's useless here. So now the difference between the committee and the court. So they're like, oh, we're going to pursue the corruption potential in the committees. Yeah, but Republicans are massive liars. I don't trust them at all. I think Hunter Biden might have been corrupt. I mean, look, guys, there's the bottom line of, did he do influence peddling? Without Joe Biden, because apparently, not apparently, we showed you, the laptop shows Joe Biden was not involved, okay? But did Hunter Biden peddle his influence as in, my last name is Biden and I'd like a seat on this Ukrainian gas company? Yeah, he definitely did that, right? And it's definitely not cool. And so I was genuinely curious, but is it a crime, right? Do you have evidence of money exchanging hands, maybe influencing Joe Biden? Then I would care a lot. And I'm not MAGA, I have total open mind on it. The guy, a Trump guy, looks and looks and looks and looks and doesn't find anything. So not a bunch of Yahoo liars on a committee are gonna pretend they found something?
Right.
No. Congress is for BS, the court system is for evidence. You had your shot in the court system and you came up with a donut, zero.
And not to mention that, going to your scenario with peddling his own name, you could be on that Ukrainian gas company board and say, let's get Hunter Biden. Let's not tell him we're getting him because he's Hunter Biden. He probably knows it intuitively. Let's go get him because his name's Hunter Biden. And it's not Hunter Biden saying, my dad's the vice president. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it totally goes both ways. Before we break here, I want to talk about what Donald Trump himself had to say. And I should also add that Donald Jr. and Ivanka Trump, because Donald Trump's lawyer gave money to Cyrus Vance in New York in 2012, were able to get out of a charge that they were inflating numbers in the Trump Hotel building. So there are favors done all the time in the justice system, and that's one that you could take a look at. That was Kasowitz, his lawyer, giving $25,000 to Cyrus Vance at that time, the DA in New York, his campaign, so that they would not prosecute, well, presumably, so they would not prosecute Donald and Ivanka. Vance gave the money back, but they never did prosecute them because they were small charges like these were against Hunter Biden. The former president today took to Truth Social saying the Hunter Joe Biden settlement is a massive cover-up. We're in all caps here, and full-scale election interference scam, the likes of which has never been seen in our country before. A traffic ticket, quotes, and Joe is all cleaned up and ready to go into the 2024 presidential election. And this as crooked DOJ state and city prosecutors, Marxists and communists all hit me from all sides, and he meant to say angles, but he wrote angels with bull blank, make America great again. So, of course, he's fired up about this. He's the one who's going to always politicize things. He thinks he's unfair. He's a martyr to the legal system.
I think that he just glorified DOJ prosecutors there more than anyone else ever has. Angels riding on bulls.
Yeah.
Galloping in. Okay. Okay. All right. Last thing for me is, look, on the politics, why do I give the Republicans credit? Because they are always maximalist. They always take it turns out trumped up, ridiculous, nonsense charges against Hunter Biden, and you make it seem like it's the biggest thing on earth. And they're like, oh my God, the corruption. And people don't read the details of indictments, etc. Do they actually read the entire story or watch the whole video to make sure? A lot of you have, obviously, right? But a ton of people don't. They just see the headlines. And as long as the Republicans are screaming, he definitely did it, when the evidence shows he apparently didn't do it, they come out even. And then when Trump does something over the top and obviously illegal, they're like, he didn't do it. And then you see headlines, he didn't do it and he did do it, and it comes out relatively even. And so it's good politics, but understand, you should never trust a word that comes out of a Republican politician's mouth. They're all proven liars. The rest of that committee will be nothing but horse scrap, and I have no interest in it, and I will not listen to anything that they claim as evidence when all they do is make things up. When you go to court, whether it's Trump pretending he had evidence of fraud in the 2020 election, or Hunter Biden, or any of these stories, all of a sudden, the Republicans can't ever find any evidence. You know why? Because they were always lying. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.